I was happening, y'all. It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and this is basically a Rico report because I have so many different updates. A lot of them are injury updates for both the Commanders and Cowboys, but there's a lot of other information as well. We're going to talk about how Lattimore is apparently 3/4 ready. Also, Kliff Kingsbury fired back at the whole his offense falls off a cliff the second half of seasons. He also was asked about play calling with Jaden Daniels dealing with the injury, if it's changed or not. CeeDee Lamb is hurt all of a sudden. We're going to talk about all of that and more. And of course, and this video is sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And before we get into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for really supporting the channel, pulling it up to every video, leaving a like and all of that. Of course, I will be live streaming this upcoming slaughter of the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday. Make sure you pull up to the live play-by-play analysis stream when we go ahead and beat them guys by 30+ points. Hey man, I'm on that type of energy against them boys this weekend, man. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. Alright, so first of all, we're going to dive deeper into this later on when we do like the actual injury breakdown. We're going to look at the injury report from what happened today and Thursday's practices from the Commanders and the Cowboys, who didn't participate, who was limited and all of that type of stuff. But just to let y'all know, before we start to dive into everything in this video, CeeDee Lamb, he was not on the injury report yesterday, as in Wednesday, November 20th, but for some reason, Thursday, November 21st, he suddenly appeared on that injury report. He was limited in practice on Wednesday, November 20th yesterday, but even though by the time most of y'all are watching this, it'll probably already be Friday, but either way, but then suddenly Thursday, November 21st, he didn't participate. Limited Wednesday, did not participate Thursday. Maybe the injury got worse. Maybe the injury was worse than they originally thought. Either way, CeeDee Lamb is really the only real offensive threat on their entire team as it stands right now. And it is going to be really ugly for those guys, but we're going to double back to that later on. Now let's talk about whether Jaden Daniels is back or not. And we've been questioning this for a couple of weeks now, but if you look at this clip right here, Jaden Daniels was super on target with consecutive turns today during his familiar Commanders practice drill, and he has not been hitting these lately. I mean, that boy look good now, because he's been pretty inaccurate the past few weeks. That's some high-level accuracy right there. On the move as well, and you see the zip with it. I mean, I would go ahead and show it again, but I guess y'all could just go ahead and rewind it real quick. But the zip on those passes, the angle from it, that was like the perfect angle to get it. Shouts out to NBC4 Sports for getting that angle, man. That has me really hyped about what Jaden Daniels can do leading up to this terrible Cowboys defense. I'm really excited. But also, Kliff Kingsbury had a press conference with the media. I'm assuming it was after practice, more than likely after practice, not before. But either way, he said that it's been great to get a full week with Jaden Daniels and just get him back to the fundamentals after some uneven performances for the offense. Here's a quick clip of that right here.
Yeah, I think you just get back to the basics, the fundamentals, and really hone in on those. I think anytime you have a couple games that, aren't to maybe the level we all want to be at, you narrow the focus, and it's like, hey, let's nail the footwork, let's nail the reads, progressions, the base stuff, and start there. And he's a guy who, when he is working at it, he works really hard. He's very focused, and so this week has been good to see him back out there going full speed and getting the reps, and I think will help us play at a higher level.
And then when talking about Jaden Daniels, he said, quote, "He's very tough and competitive. He's earned a lot of respect from his teammates by battling the last few weeks," unquote. Hold on. Wait a minute. What do you mean by earn respect from his teammates by battling the last few weeks? Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels have been downplaying his injury this entire time, and then maybe Kliff Kingsbury accidentally exposed the fact that Jaden Daniels maybe has been a little bit more hurt than they've let on from Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels' side by trying to compliment Jaden Daniels. I'm pretty sure that may have been somewhat of a slip up, trying to give Jaden Daniels a compliment and then not completely, but slightly contradicting what Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels have been saying for the past couple of weeks. Shouts out to my boy at Let Maul Tell It, my boy Jamal over there. Make sure you follow him on Twitter, subscribe to him on YouTube, everything. Great show, full film breakdowns, all 22, everything. But he brought up a great tweet. He said, people are going to continue diving into whatever conspiracy they followed the last sentence. That sentence, what I'm saying, he's earned a lot of respect from his teammates by battling the last few weeks. But I hope most are smart enough to understand the difference between playing hurt versus playing injured, which is something I've been questioning and saying in my videos for the past couple of weeks. And not one person has said that Jaden Daniels is playing through an injury. That's a great point. So don't panic too far. Even though I still feel like that's a slip up by Kliff Kingsbury, do not overthink it. It sounds like it's more so what he's playing through as far as pain-wise, not necessarily an injury that's like a huge excuse for why he's been not himself lately. I mean, again, I feel like it's a combination of a lot of different things. We just went against the number 3 and the number 2 defense in the NFL back-to-back, according to points allowed per game. We also, I mean, we've had offensive line struggles because we've gone against 2 of the best defensive lines in the entire game. So Jaden Daniels hasn't had as much time as he wanted to. Receivers have dropped passes. No Yak Zach against the Steelers. Like, I just feel like there's been so many factors, even outside of Jaden Daniels himself not playing well. So we can blame whatever pain he's going through right now. That probably has a lot to do with it, because again, I refuse to believe he went from being historically accurate those first few weeks to throwing the ball at receivers' ankles all of a sudden. It's just out of nowhere after he's not able to practice as often and he's going through pain since the Panthers injury. But either way, man, I think Jaden Daniels will be fine. I think he'll be good to go, and I think this Cowboys defense is the perfect bounce back. And just in case if you think Jaden Daniels just fell off of a cliff, I mean, yeah, he had a bad, you could argue, couple of games, but maybe that Eagles game, especially more so than that Steelers game, because we were moving the ball very well against the Steelers. The Eagles game, you could probably say, was a bad game. I mean, but look at this chart right here. When we're looking at how effective quarterbacks are at throwing into tight coverage, where receivers are not open, but it's just up to the quarterback to throw them open. And when you're looking at the y-axis, which is catchable percentage, and then the x-axis horizontally, EPA per pass attempt, Jaden Daniels is in a league of his own right now. I mean, I guess Russell Wilson has him beat when it comes to EPA per pass attempt to not open receivers, but when it comes to catchable percentage, Jaden Daniels throws the most catchable ball when a receiver is not open out of any quarterback in the NFL, and it's not even close. It's not even close. And then Jaden Daniels is only second to Russell Wilson in EPA per pass attempt. But again, when you're looking at that chart and he's the furthest top right, that just lets you know that he's in a league of his own. He is still a lot of advanced stats wise, Jaden Daniels is still one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the NFL. So you can say he had an off game against the Eagles, but he's still up there as far as like doing things that a lot of other quarterbacks can't do, like the difficult things, throwing the ball to covered receivers. Jaden Daniels is the best in the NFL at that. Also, shouts out to my boy DC Sports Dre. Make sure you follow him on Twitter as well. Great point. He said also Jaden's bad game is wildly exaggerated. He wasn't good at all against the Eagles, but that's far from the type of future performances we've seen from other quarterbacks out there. If that's his worst, we're in great hands. I completely agree. And a matter of fact, 33rd team must agree as well, because if you look on the screen right now, they feel like Jaden Daniels is still the 4th best quarterback out of the entire NFL. Lamar Jackson 1, Jared Goff 2, Josh Allen 3, Jaden Daniels 4. And no other rookie quarterback in sight. I mean, you have Bo Nix 23rd and Caleb Williams 24th, I guess. Drake May up at 19th, but none of those guys are even on the same half of the chart as Jaden Daniels. That's like a visual separation from Jaden Daniels and all of the other rookie quarterbacks that people are talking about. Or how about Jaden Daniels over all of those other quarterbacks that's behind them? They only have 3 quarterbacks higher than him, and I'm not inclined to necessarily disagree. And before we move on to the second half of this video, I really like the second 2/3, because we still have a lot to talk about. Injury updates, we got to talk about Mike Sanford still getting a Nike deal and all of that. But before we get there, of course I got to let y'all know that this show is provided and sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And if you're looking for a new sportsbook right now, it should be BetUS for sure, man. First of all, they have the fastest payouts in the industry, and I know y'all want y'all money fast because I know I do. And right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's YOUTUBE150. And they also have a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process as well. Come on, man. Now let's take a look at some bets that we can get into directly from their website. Well, I was scrolling around looking for some nice profit to get into. How about Week 12 Sunday games? This is not including Thursday night, which is happening right now. I see my Georgia dog Nick Chubb going crazy right now. 16 seconds left. Look like the Bears will actually find a way to pull this off. But either way, we're not talking Thursday. We're not talking Monday. Just all of the games on Sunday. Who will end up being the highest scoring team? Of course, the Detroit Lions are the most heavily favored, but the Washington Commanders are going against a terrible Dallas Cowboys defense. So you can see that we have plus 500 odds right now. But even the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, I guess as like a visual representation of how like people don't expect their offense to be good. One of the very few teams they are ahead of in the betting odds are the Las Vegas Raiders, but they're expected to score less points against us than the Bears are, than the Giants after benching Daniel Jones, than the New England Patriots. So just to kind of get an idea of how much we should whip up on those Cowboys, I feel like this is a good visual representation. We have the second highest odds, and the Dallas Cowboys are all the way down there. But if you wanted to put $100 on this bet, you would end up making 5 times that with the plus 500 odds. So you put down $100, you will win $500. So if you have faith that the Jaden Daniels can bounce back, Kliff Kingsbury and this entire offense can bounce back, especially against a really terrible Cowboys defense. If you have faith that that can happen and the Commanders end up scoring more points than anybody else on Sunday, you could end up multiplying the money that you put down by 5. But as always, man, I'm going to scream at y'all to please gamble responsibly every single time. And again, right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YOUTUBE150. And again, please make sure you gamble responsibly. Now let's get back to this video, man. All right, so Austin Cyborg, it seems like he may be able to go and play against the Cowboys. He's missed the last 2 games. I honestly do feel like this one is a coincidence because Zane Gonzalez hasn't missed a single kick since he came in as our backup kicker. So I'm not going to blame our losses on Austin Cyborg. But either way, Austin Cyborg talked about his hip injury after practice today. He said, quote, "The plan is to play this week. Kick today. Felt good," unquote. It was that simple. So we may have Austin Cyborg back for the first time since the last time we won a game. He was out the last 2 weeks. We happen to lose those 2 games. Again, I don't feel like that has a direct correlation to Austin Cyborg not being able to play because, again, our backup kicker, Zane Gonzalez, made every kick, every PAT. But either way, we should have Austin Cyborg back to get ready against these Cowboys. Having 9 days off, a 10-day gap between the previous game that we played is going to be big time for a lot of the injuries that our team has been dealing with, mainly our starting kicker as well. Jaden Daniels is our starting quarterback, all kinds of stuff. Also, Dante Fowler Jr. was limited in today's practice with a hip injury. The reason that concerns me is because he wasn't on the injury report at all yesterday, and then suddenly something with a hip came up, and now he was limited today. But it's not like he didn't participate. He's not as hurt as CeeDee Lamb is, so if CeeDee Lamb ends up playing, you can best believe that Dante Fowler is even more likely to play, is my point. But I don't know. We're going to look at it soon. I'm not sure if CeeDee Lamb plays against us, and that's really their only offensive bright spot. That's really their only hope. We'll see, though. But either way, going back to Dante Fowler, I do feel like we really need this guy. Shouts out to Bowie TV Sports for pointing this out. Because Dante Fowler so far this season has 25 tackles, 16 solo, 8.5 sacks. That's 4th in the entire NFL. And he didn't even get a sack last week against the Eagles. And then he has 1 forced fumble, 1 interception, and also a touchdown because his interception was a pick 6. This man is having a phenomenal, easily Pro Bowl worthy level season, and it will be nice to have him to go against the Cowboys. Even as anemic as their offense may be, it would be really nice to have him. And then Joe Witt Jr. even said a lot of interesting things in his press conference after practice, but he credited Ryan Kerrigan for Dante Fowler Jr.'s surge in sacks. He said, quote, "I give all of the credit to Ryan Kerrigan," unquote. And it's a good point. I mean, Al Galdi brings up the point that Kerrigan was the lone defensive holdover from Ron Rivera's staff. Everybody else is completely different. Everybody else. Great to hear Kerrigan is doing well as an assistant linebackers coach / pass rush specialist. Remember, and even then, even though he's the one Rivera holdover on the entire defensive coaching staff, he also changed roles because he went from like assistant defensive lines coach to now assistant the linebackers coach / pass rush specialist, because we brought in a new defensive lines coach and a new assistant defensive lines coach. So a lot of turnover, but Ryan Kerrigan is making his impact felt, and the fact that Dante Fowler and Joe Wood Jr. give Ryan Kerrigan credit for how great of a season Dante Fowler is having is big news. It sounds like Ryan Kerrigan is here to stick around for a long time, or at the very least, if he doesn't stick around for a long time, it's because he's growing in the coaching world and some other team tries to steal him from us. Also, Marshon Lattimore was working on the side field with the Commanders strength coaches today at practice, and just to let you know, it's not necessarily looking like that he'll play against the Cowboys this upcoming game on Sunday, just to warn you. But shouts out to DC Rising, because I agree. He said people are going to freak out, but I'm fine with this. Why would you re-risk injury against Cooper Rush and the Cowboys? Completely agree. We traded for Lattimore to hopefully win playoff games against good teams, not to beat the 3-7 Cowboys. I completely agree, and like I've already been talking about, I think at this point we just hold him all the way through the bye, give him another 20-something days, and then he'll play against the Saints. That's fine. Give revenge versus his former team. And we may not even necessarily need him for that game, but I'm pretty sure we'll at least give him that game so that he'll have a week of game action, not only practice, but game action, you know, playing in an NFL regular season game, catching back up to speed, dealing with the punishment that takes, the tax that it does on your body for a week before he has to go against the Eagles the week after that. So I think it would be wise to go ahead and throw him out there against the Saints so he can get physically back ready mentally and all of that for the Eagles the week after that. But either way, today's injury report, John Com said Lattimore did a lot of work on the side, cornerback movements, tracking the ball, cutting to defend a pass. John Com said he was about 3/4 speed when they were watching. That's actually really positive news. That's further ahead than I thought. Again, he was running yesterday, as in Wednesday, November 20th, but now we're hearing about him doing cornerback movements, tracking the ball, cutting to defend a pass, like he's doing sharp cuts, turns, agility things that, you know, him dealing with a hamstring injury, that's pretty big news. And John Com specifically said that it looked like he was about 3/4 of himself at practice earlier today. I think that's really big news. Now let's take a look at the actual injury report for both teams. Starting with the Commander side, Michael Davis, due to personal reasons, did not participate in practice on Thursday, but we don't really expect him to play against the Cowboys anyway, unless Benjamin St-Juste has cramps again like he did against the Eagles and has to step out of the game for any little bit amount of time. Then defensive end Clelin Ferrell had rest on Thursday. He was dealing with a knee injury, which is why he was limited on Wednesday, but they're saying Thursday was because of rest. Of course, cornerback Marshon Lattimore still technically has not participated in our practice since we traded for him, so no surprise there. Then Pro Bowl special teamer Nick Bellore didn't participate in Wednesday's practice, but was limited in Thursdays. Maybe we get our Pro Bowl special teamer back. Again, like we mentioned earlier, Dante Fowler with a hip injury was not on the injury report Wednesday, but was suddenly limited on Thursday. Now, it's not the worst news ever. It's not like not having an injury and then suddenly didn't participate on Thursday. Now, that would be something maybe we need to worry about, but whatever he tweaked, it must not be too bad because he still was at least limited even in the fact that he practiced. Noah Benogany's still dealing with that thumb injury, been limited so far all week. Austin Cyborg's still limited, but he said that he's tracking ready to play, so maybe it's safe to assume that everybody limited maybe still be able to play against the Cowboys if we need them to. And then everybody else is full. We're good to go. Ben Sinnott, the rookie tight end, he had an illness on Wednesday that made him limited, but he's fully good to go, fully recovered from that, at least recovered enough to practice in full. And then everybody else, Dorrance Armstrong, Brandon Coleman, Javonte John Baptiste, who we just opened his 21-day window from the injured reserve. He's been a full participant all week, and Jordan McGee as well. So full participants all the way down there. Now, if we move to the Cowboys, it's looking really bad for those guys. Safety Marquise Bell, shoulder injury, hasn't participated all week. Tight end Jake Ferguson, concussion, hasn't participated all week. I do not expect him to play against us. I mean, you can say CeeDee Lamb is their brightest weapon on offense, like their only hope of potentially even keeping this a game against us, but Jake Ferguson is a pretty decent tight end, and the fact that he's not playing is also bad news for the Cowboys. Then again, CeeDee Lamb with the back, foot injury, all kinds of stuff, limited on Wednesday because of a back. I think he was not a participant in practice because of a foot on Thursday. I think that's why it's back Wednesday, foot, but I may just be assuming things. Either way, he's dealing with a back and a foot injury. He was limited on Wednesday. Suddenly on Thursday, he's not good at all. So I think that's definitely something to watch for. Do not be surprised if CeeDee Lamb is not able to play against us. And again, the Cowboys offense is already looking terrible, but without CeeDee Lamb, it's looking awful. Like, I mean, just absolutely putrid. And then guard Zach Martin's starting guard, ankle and shoulder, hasn't participated in practice all week. Guard Tyler Smith, ankle and knee, hasn't participated in practice all week. Linebacker Nick Vigil, foot injury, hasn't participated in practice all week. Then you have Brandon Cooks, Trevon Diggs, Marshon Nealon, Jordan Lewis, and Hunter Luepke. I hope that's how you pronounce the fullback's name. I've always been bad with that name for some reason. I learned how to pronounce it one day and then forgot it. But either way, all of those guys are limited. We'll see if they're even able to play. And then Deron Bland has finally, it looks like he may actually return for his first time in a long time. I think is this his first time playing all season? And then you also have Chuma Edoga, Tyler Guyton, and Eric Kendricks. They all seem to be good to go as far as returning. We'll see where that goes because Brandon Cooks, Marshon Nealon, and Chuma Edoga are coming off of IR right now. Well, at least they're in their 21-day return window, so they're not even officially off of IR yet, but maybe they'll play. More than likely they will not, though, because we're questioning Javonte Jean-Baptiste if he'll play or not. He's in his 21-day window as well, but like you saw when I was showing you the Commanders side of the injury report, he's been a full participant all week, and I'm not even sure if he'll play. So all of these guys that are limited for the Cowboys, I don't think it's very likely. Now moving on from that, let's double back to Kliff Kingsbury. He was asked earlier today, and I think it was maybe before practice, who knows, but he said he was asked if he's aware of the history of this offense slowing down in the second half of seasons every time he's been like the main offensive guy as a head coach for the Arizona Cardinals and now the offensive coordinator for the Commanders. He said, quote, "I would have to see what you're talking about. Historically, references, but I don't have any plans to do anything to break that trend that I know of. I would have to see what years you're talking about," unquote. So he's acting completely oblivious to the whole thing. But then right after that, he joked, quote, "I was thinking about doing triple option. Is that what you were thinking? We're going to do what we do," unquote. So I thought that was pretty cool that he even had like a sense of humor with that. And then here's an actual clip of him answering that question right here.
I'm not saying this is happening this year, but historically your offenses have declined a little bit in the second half of seasons. Are you aware of that, and is it important for you to like break that trend?
I would have to see the what you're talking about historically, like the references, but yeah, I don't have any plans to do anything to break that trend that I know of. Yeah, I mean, I would have to see what years you're talking about. So I was thinking about doing triple option. Like, is that what you're thinking? Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, we're going to do what we do. So.
And I agree with Mark Bullock when he says, like, sure, there is maybe somewhat of a drop-off, but it's a drop-off from the #1 ranked offense to the middle of the pack. Still an average over 23 points per game right now. Not exactly a horrific offense. Also, we're talking about 3 years ago, he's grown a bunch since then. So I do agree that maybe him being a head coach for the Arizona Cardinals should not be accounted for when you're talking about this trend, because that was a completely different situation, completely different roster. And again, like Mark Bullock said, it's been so many years after that I feel like he's probably learned and like maybe he's aware of it. He's just acting oblivious to it to the media, and I'm pretty sure he's going to do whatever it takes to adjust to that. Also, Joe Witt Jr. was asked about facing folks that he's worked with during his coaching career. Witt keeps all of his game plan presentations, reads them before such games, and seeks adjustments off of those chats. Last week versus the Eagles, offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. This week versus the Cowboys staff, and he did like a whole quote breaking down. He even said, like, to answer the question, it is actually more challenging when you're very familiar with your opponent and you have a lot of different like history and years with coaches from other teams that you're now facing as opponents. So if you wanted to go look at that quote, you could definitely go check that out. Ben Standig like tweeted an entire picture of it. It's a really long quote, so that's why I didn't want to dive into it here if you're interested. Also, moving on, in really random news but great news, that boy Mike Sanverstill is now a Nike athlete, as you can see on the screen right now. I'm so happy for him, man. That's how you know He's coming alive. He's developing, and the rest of the national fan base, the rest of the world is taking notice. When you play that well against the Eagles, especially on Thursday Night Football for everybody to see, especially with as good as the Eagles receivers are, and you just completely shut them down, I'm not surprised, but I'm still so happy and proud. That boy Mike Sanderstill just got himself a Nike deal, man. Shouts out to him, man. Also, Joe Wood Jr. spoke on Mike Sanderstill after practice today. He said, quote, he's a high-level competitor, unquote. And, you know, he tried to keep it simple, but Joe Wood Jr., for what it's worth, I mean, as happy as he could possibly look while doing a press conference, he looked pretty happy when talking about Mike Sanderstill. And then also, before we get up out of here in super random news, former Washington football teamer Wendell Smallwood is now facing 50 years for COVID-19 tax fraud schemes. That is crazy. Really random news. I just felt like since this is a Rico report, I might as well just go ahead and throw that in there. But that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. If you made it this far in the video, man, I really salute you. I really appreciate you, man. Make sure you leave a like on the way out. Really appreciate that. Please still follow that like button on the way out. And of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Jaden Daniels, does he finally look like his former self? How do you feel about Marshon Lattimore being 3/4 himself already? How do you feel about his chances of playing maybe next week against the Titans, or should we just go ahead and hold him out until the bye week like I feel like? How do you feel about Kliff Kingsbury's Kliff's Kliff in second half of seasons and how he acknowledged it and how he feels like he is adjusting to it? How do you feel about the fact that he said he has not changed his play calling even when Jaden Daniels has been hurt? Let me know how you feel about our injuries for both teams, the Commander side, but especially that Cowboys side, and the fact that CeeDee Lamb does not look like he's going to play against us and how much that's really going to hurt the Cowboys. Let me know how you feel about all of that and more. I really appreciate y'all. I'm going to catch y'all later. I'm out.